The sound of the mop bucket wheels echoed faintly through the gleaming marble lobby as sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows of the Franklin corporate tower. The morning rush had begun, with executives clutching coffee cups and young interns tapping away on their phones, too busy to notice the middle-aged janitor pushing his cleaning cart across the polished floor. But among all the noise and motion, there was something quietly dignified about him. The way his eyes carried a distant sadness and his steps moved with purpose, as though he had long ago learned to walk through life carrying invisible weights. His name was Ethan Cole, a single father of one, and though most people only saw him as the janitor in the grey uniform, there was a story behind those tired hands that none of them could imagine. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty hidden inside ordinary people, then take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Because this is one of those stories that reminds us how powerful a human heart can be when life gives it one last chance to shine. Ethan had been working as a janitor for almost 3 years at Franklin Enterprises, a tech firm known for its luxury offices and ruthless efficiency. Every day, he arrived before dawn, sweeping floors and wiping down glass doors before the employees came in. He didn't talk much, but everyone knew him by his gentle nods and soft smiles. What they didn't know was that before life had broken him, Ethan was once a pianist, a man who dreamed of playing on grand stages, his fingers dancing across ivory keys while people listened in awe. But dreams, he had learned, could crumble faster than applause fades. Years ago, Ethan's wife, Grace, had fallen ill. Her medical bills drained their savings, and when she passed away, he was left with nothing but a small apartment and their 7-year-old daughter, Mara. To keep food on the table and the lights on, he sold his beloved piano, the last gift Grace had ever given him. "I'll get it back one day," he'd whispered to Mara as movers carried it away, but deep inside he knew some promises were too heavy to keep. Still, every night after his shift, when Mara was asleep, Ethan would play imaginary melodies on the table, his fingers moving through the air as if the keys were still there. He played silently to the ghosts of memories, to the woman he had lost, and to the little girl who looked at him like he was still her hero. It was on an ordinary Tuesday that something extraordinary began to unfold. The company was preparing for its annual Employee Talent Day, a casual lunch event meant to build morale. Employees from all departments could sign up to showcase hidden talents, singing, stand-up comedy, painting, whatever they liked. The HR manager, a cheerful woman named Clara Jennings, was busy setting up posters near the cafeteria when she saw Ethan passing by. "You should join, Ethan," she said with a friendly grin. "Got any secret talents?" Ethan chuckled softly. "I'm afraid cleaning floors is about all I've mastered these days." Clara smiled and waved him off. "Oh, come on, everyone's got something. Think about it, he didn't. At least not seriously." The idea of performing in front of all those people seemed absurd until a group of interns, overhearing the exchange, decided to make him the target of a harmless office joke. The next morning, Ethan walked into the break room to find a sign-up sheet posted on the bulletin board. Next to Ethan Cole, someone had scribbled "Piano Performance, the Janitor's Symphony." Laughter echoed in the hallway when he saw it. "Hey, Ethan," one of the interns called, smirking. "Don't forget your tuxedo for the big show." He forced a polite smile, but the sting cut deep. They didn't know that once, long ago, he had worn a tuxedo to play on real stages, before life turned applause into pity. That afternoon, as he sat in the maintenance room during lunch, he stared at the sign-up sheet on his phone. He could have asked HR to remove his name, but something inside him stirred, a quiet voice that whispered, "Maybe it's time they see who you really are." He hadn't touched a piano in almost 7 years, but there was one in the company's lobby, used mostly for decoration. He often wiped it clean, dusting the black lacquer until it shone. He had never dared touch the keys, not even once. That evening, when the building emptied out, Ethan wheeled his mop bucket to the piano, his reflection ghostly in the polished surface. His hands trembled as he lifted the lid. The ivory keys looked back at him, silent and patient, as if waiting for him to return. Slowly, he pressed one. The note was pure and bright. His chest tightened. Then he pressed another, and another, until the sound became a whisper of memory, flooding him with emotions he had buried for years. He played softly at first, afraid to break the spell. But soon, music poured out of him like a confession, a melody of love, loss, and longing that seemed to speak without words. It wasn't a performance, it was a prayer. When he finally stopped, tears blurred his vision. Somewhere deep inside, something that had been silent for too long had awakened. The next day, he told Clara he would perform. Her eyes widened. "Really? That's wonderful," she said, writing his name back on the list. The interns were stunned too. They hadn't expected him to take the joke seriously. Some even whispered that it would be embarrassing. But Ethan didn't care. For the first time in years, he had something to look forward to. The day of the talent event arrived with golden sunlight pouring through the cafeteria windows. The room buzzed with excitement. Employees laughing, cheering, and recording with their phones. The CEO, Mr. Grant Franklin, a tall man with sharp features and a reputation for being stoic, sat at the front table. Ethan stood quietly near the side, his heart pounding beneath his. Janitor's uniform. One by one, employees took the stage, songs, jokes, even a magic trick. Then Clara stepped up and announced, "And now we have a very special performance by someone we all know but may not really know. Please welcome our janitor, Mr. Ethan Cole." Polite applause filled the room, mixed with a few chuckles. Some expected an awkward comedy act or a clumsy tune. Ethan walked slowly to the piano in the corner, his old work shoes squeaking slightly on the tile. He sat down, adjusted the bench, and for a long moment just stared at the keys. The room quieted. Then he began to play. The first notes were soft and haunting, like the echo of a forgotten lullaby. Then the melody grew, weaving through the air like sunlight breaking through clouds. His fingers moved with grace and sorrow, every touch telling a story that words never could. People who had been whispering moments before now sat motionless, their laughter dying on their lips. The music carried something raw and human, loss, hope, love, and survival, all bound together in one fragile thread. Mr. Franklin, the CEO, leaned forward, his usual stoic mask cracking slightly as he listened. Somewhere in the middle of the piece, Ethan closed his eyes and let the music take over completely. He wasn't in that cafeteria anymore. He was back in the tiny apartment with Grace humming softly beside him, Mara laughing on her lap, the sound of happiness echoing through a life that once felt whole. When he finally struck the last note, it lingered in the air like a heartbeat. Then, silence. For a moment, no one moved. And then, the entire room erupted into applause. People stood to their feet, clapping and cheering, tears glistening in their eyes. Clara was crying openly, and even the interns who had mocked him looked ashamed, clapping harder than anyone else. But what stunned everyone most was the CEO himself. Mr. Franklin stood up, walked to the front, and extended his hand. His voice trembled slightly when he said, "Mr. Cole, that was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in this building." Ethan rose, unsure what to say. Mr. Franklin continued, "You reminded us today that talent and grace can be found in the most unexpected places. Thank you for reminding us what humanity sounds like." The applause returned, louder, filled with something deeper than admiration. It was respect. In the days that followed, everything changed. The video of Ethan's performance, recorded by an employee, spread across social media like wildfire. People were moved by the story of the humble janitor whose music made a CEO cry. News outlets picked it up, calling it the melody of redemption. Within a week, a local music foundation reached out, offering to sponsor Ethan and his daughter. The company even gifted him a grand piano. delivered straight to his apartment with a handwritten note from Mr. Franklin that read, "For the man who taught us what real harmony means." That night, Mara came home from school to find her father sitting beside the new piano. "You got it back!" she squealed, running into his arms. He smiled through tears. "Yeah, sweetheart. I guess sometimes life brings back what you thought you'd lost forever." As the sun set outside their small window, Ethan played again, this time not for sorrow, but for joy. The notes filled the apartment, spilling out into the warm evening air, touching hearts that could only imagine the story behind the song. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps us spread more real stories of hope, love, and second chances. And before you go, comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Because sometimes, all it takes is one moment of unexpected beauty to remind us that kindness never truly disappears. It just waits for its time to play again.